This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is America's Mayor live from Palm Beach, Florida, which is somewhat south of where the hurricane's going to hit either, I think, early tomorrow morning or so, maybe a little later than that in Tallahassee. We're out of the emergency zone that sort of starts around Tampa, which is 2 hours north of us. Um, but we've already have some rain as well. Um, you know, tomorrow and the next day. And I'm looking at the map right now. Maybe this one can show it to you the best. If we can switch to that, Ted, this would be a nice. That's you see where it says Tampa. That's of course Florida, and Tampa is, I don't know if it's probably in the middle of Florida. You wouldn't say northern part. The the Panhandle, which is the part that goes over toward Alabama, Mississippi, and Texas, whatever. Uh, the Panhandle would be the really northern part of Florida. Tampa would be kind of the middle, and Palm Beach and Naples on the West Coast, and Miami, Fort Lauderdale. That's the southern part of Florida. So the going to be spared, and the hurricane is going to hit in the area kind of above Tampa, uh, whereas where Tallahassee is located. You can see it coming in, right? That big red coming in. So tomorrow it's going to still be out over the ocean at 110 miles an hour. It's coming from Cancun in Mexico, and as it stays over the ocean, or the Gulf of Mexico, sorry, and you can see where the hurricane is now, or as at about 5 o'clock where it was. It's it's sort of off the tip of that's Cuba right next to it, off the tip of Cuba, not too far from Guantanamo, for that matter. Havana is sort of in the middle of Cuba, so it's a little further away. So if you keep going north, as it keeps going north, it would speed, and it'll be up to 130 or so right before it hits land in Tallahassee. And then when it hits land in Tallahassee, it's going to head north in a somewhat westerly direction. So Atlanta is going to be hit straight on. But by that time, it'll be down to 80 miles an hour because it will slow down over land. It will be the biggest hurricane so far in terms of the predictions in the history of Tallahassee, because usually the hurricanes come in lower. Usually the hurricanes come in south of Tampa and south, which would be Naples in the case of the West Coast, and then the whole famous group of places from Port St. Lucie, where the Mets have the Yankees do their spring training in Tampa, and the Mets do it across on the other side of the on the other of Florida, which would be in Port St. Lucie. And then you go down from Port St. Lucie and you come all the way down to Miami at the end, and then the Keys. They are not in the emergency zone. So people in Atlanta, people in Tallahassee, and um, just be safe, huh? And listen to DeSantis. He knows what he's doing. He's a good governor. I supported Trump, but never doubted the fact that he is a very, very good governor. And this state has been blessed with some very good governors. So, I mean, he's away from him, but the whole emergency system was devised by Jeb Bush, and it's one of the best. And it was improved by Scott and then by him. And I mean, he was out on top of this I mean, compare it to the sleepy stay in the basement of the White House Bidens, and I don't warn you of anything, right? I warn you of a damn thing. So today was Economy Day, right? Trump yesterday in Savannah, and today in Mint Hill, North Carolina. Mostly in Savannah, but even Mint Hill. Trump laid out in really in as much detail as I've ever heard a presidential candidate do it, his economic program. Then you contrast it with her speech, where she basically talked about her mother, her middle class background, how she loves, how she has aspirations for us. And then she sprinkled in a couple of things. Um, I counted about 2.5 minutes of substantive, but didn't explain them. And then did the controversial ones like in generality. Let me give you an example. She said she's going to fix the problem of rent. Now everybody's going to be not going to have to pay high rent anymore. She didn't explain how. She's going to do it by putting a limit on the amount a landlord can raise the rent. That's called rent control. Rent control economy of New York City. And New York, liberal New York had to do away with it. If she would listen to left-wing economists, she would learn that it's a disaster. It's a pure communist invention, and it destroys an economy. Because what happened? The landlord gets to the point where the building is making whatever profit it's making, and then it can't raise rent in conjunction with the rise in costs. So there's a limit of 5%. I don't know if that's every year or just the first year. She basically is going to decide, the government's going to decide how much rent you can charge. Immediately a step toward communism, right? So everything she talked about would grow the government. Everything she talked about, even the things that are popular, like the $25,000 when you buy your first home. Now, who gets the $25,000? Everybody? Just poor people? Where's the break? Where's the? I mean, if you're really poor, you can't buy a home. $25,000 not get you in a home. So it has to go to people that have some means, right? It has to go to people that have the means to buy a home and need another 25,000. Now, do you think they're really capable of figuring that out? I mean, they couldn't figure out how to get out of Afghanistan. How are they going to figure that out? I mean, all they did is put us in the largest inflation we've had in 50 years, and a debt that's higher than, almost as high. I'm sorry, will be very shortly higher than World War II. Than World War II. And they're going to figure out with precision exactly who needs the $25,000. Raise the debt. Raise taxes on the rich. I forgot. Just in general, we're going to raise taxes on the rich. I mean, we keep raising taxes on the rich. We ain't going to have no rich. They're all going to, like in New York, they raise taxes on the rich and they all came here in Florida. People are not stupid. And people are by nature not socialists or communists. They don't want to be supporting people who don't work. And they've brought in about 20 million people, and a very small percentage of them work. A lot of them rape, murder, abuse children, set up zones like on Roosevelt Avenue in New York, where underage girls are used as prostitutes. I mean, this is mind-boggling. What they do. She also okay, go ahead, Ted, please.
Yeah. Did you want to hear today?
Let's listen to Dodo Bird. God Almighty! Just listening to it is like it was. I had to listen to it today, and several people I was with walked out of the room and left me by myself.
Red tape that stops home after will also go after the biggest drivers of cost for the middle class and work to bring them down. And one of those, some would argue one of the biggest, is the cost of housing. So here's what we will do. We will cut the red tape that stops homes from being built and take on, in addition, corporate landlords who are hiking rental prices.
Every moron is laughing now.
We will work with builders and developers to construct 3 million new homes and rentals for the middle class, because increasing the housing supply will help drive down the cost of housing. We will also help first-time homebuyers just get their foot in the door with the $25,000 down payment assistance. Because the goal is clear. Let's help more Americans afford to buy a home, which we know is a critical step in their ability to grow their wealth and intergenerational wealth. And we will work to reduce.
I think let's analyze this, because she leaves out how this is going to be done. She's going to take on the landlords. What does that mean? She's going to take them on, bring them home? It means she's going to put a limit on how much they can charge for rent. The minute that happens, your housing stock begins to deteriorate, because they no longer have an incentive to maintain them. They no longer have an incentive to improve them. A lot of them just go into another business. The better ones sell out and go into another business, and they sell it to people who become slumlords, because they can't make a reasonable profit on the property, or what they regard as a reasonable profit, which from time immemorial in America has been their decision, not the government. So she's taking all that away and bringing it to Washington. Socialist, communist, growth of government, decisions made in the private sector that create a healthy housing market are taken away. I would think you got about half your left-wing economist who would tell you this is a disaster. Rent control is a disaster. Any place that's been tried, like New York, it destroyed housing. And even the left-wing New York legislature did away with it. So she's going to revive it. This is the strangest thing about, she's something new. It's an old idea that's failed, that she's reviving. Because she probably doesn't even know, because she's a jackass. She failed the bar exam, remember? And they just sit there and clap. There wasn't much clapping, actually. It was like that. So that's rent control. Taking on the landlords is a way of hiding from the fact that liberal economists like Jason Furman will say this is a disaster. Well, he's actually on price controls, but it's really the same thing. Then she's going to work with developers like Trump to build 3 million homes. What does that mean? The government's going to build. The government's going to get in the building business. Is the government going to own the homes? We're going to live in government housing. But you realize we're taking the federal government that's already like this, right? Big and fat and completely inefficient, and we're going to make it like that. That's what happens in a communist dictatorial society. The central government takes all the power, and they tell you what to do, like you better wear a mask or we'll shoot you, or you better get a vaccine or we'll fire you, even if the vaccine may end up killing you. And we haven't checked. You don't see it. I mean, you don't see that Rudy Giuliani's prediction that we were on a express train to socialism of 3 to 4 years ago has come true. We're there and we're beyond. We've gone into the station and we've gone beyond. We're heading toward communist structures in large parts of our government. The education is gone. Education in terms of public education and even university education is essentially Marxist training. And then the $25,000 for the homeowners. I told you, how do you do that? First of all, where do you get the money to give this away? And second, how do you decide who gets it? If they're very poor, they can't contribute at all. And if they have the means, what do you give them $25,000 for? What's it going to do? $25,000. I mean, I don't know where you're going to buy a house for $25,000 or even 50. I mean, I would think in some parts of America, maybe 100, maybe, but more likely, you're talking multiple hundreds of thousands, 300, 400,000. What does 25,000 mean? And let the bank deal with it. Leave it in the private economy. It'll regularize itself much, much better than the stupid idiot bureaucrats setting rules and regulations, which is what happens in communist countries that go bonkers, like Venezuela. The guy that the Wall Street Journal made fun of yesterday with the picture. Today, maybe they heard me. They wrote a really great article of the changes that he made in Argentina. That was over 100% inflation. You know, the first thing he attacked, rent control. They had rent control all through Argentina. Did away with it. Now, he's got an economy now where inflation is down, and he's succeeding. But he's smart. She's dumb, and she's a communist. We have any more excerpts from Dodo Bird?
Just takes you a second to transition.
Yeah, this is very hard having to look at her.
So we can keep playing a little more of that clip here.
Which is this one?
Sorry, guys. It takes a second to fire this stuff up.
Because the goal is clear.
That
Let's
sounds
help
really good.
more Americans afford to buy a home, which we know is a critical step in their ability to grow their wealth and intergenerational wealth.
This
And
is
we
just
will
filler.
work to reduce
This is
other
the
big
filler that a
costs
dumb person
for
uses
middle-class families.
when they don't really
We will
understand
take
the
on
issue.
bad actors who
So
exploit
take on bad actors.
emergencies and
There are
drive
a lot
up
of those.
grocery prices
You could take
by
on De Niro.
enacting the first ever federal ban on corporate price gouging.
Okay, stop. Stop. That's price controls. That is a unmitigated disaster. I'm telling you, this is what Jason Furman wrote about, and every reasonable, sensible liberal to left wing to even far left wing. I mean, almost all of them will tell you the rent controls is there, but every one of them will tell you the price controls is completely a disaster. And it is a complete contradiction of, I'm going to do something new. We did this before and we failed. Nixon did it, a Republican, and he almost destroyed our economy and had to stop it. And then never did it again because he was an intelligent man who didn't keep repeating mistakes. But she wants to go back and do what has not worked elsewhere. And she wants to do rent control, which ruined Argentina. And you got an example of a guy who, in a short period of time, turned an economy around by doing away with rent control. What the hell is wrong with these people? Well, they're communists. They will take anything they can to the central government because that sustains the ability to be a dictator. It's like the pandemic. Watch how they acted during the pandemic, which was an emergency, and that's the way they want to act all the time. It's at the core of the corruption scandal in New York, which is beginning to embrace the entire city government. I want to show you this little chart here of the debt. You see, we're back to World War II. We're not fighting a world war. In fact, we didn't increase defense spending. And we are possibly headed for a world war. He just sent more troops to the Middle East. I don't know what he's going to decide tomorrow. Dodo Bird, the other Dodo Bird, the one in the White House, I don't know if she'll be there. We're not going to help. So Zelensky is going to come in and explain how he can win the war. Maybe just take another 30 to 40 billion that he can kick around with the crooked oligarchs and run it through the very, very honest, accountable American military industrial complex where Joe Biden has avoided any accounting. Every time they try to put accounting on this money, he goes. I mean, who knows better than him about cheating in Ukraine?
I want to bring up that chart again because we have it here on the
screen. You see the two peaks? One of them is because of a world war, and the other is because he spent about $4 to $5 trillion on nothing, on democratic corruption programs like the one in New York, or like the one that Walls administered, the communist Walls. And she's going to take it way up. Everything she said today takes that graph, right? Moves it up. 25,000. She's going to get it from the rich people. Like hell she is. They're going to find 15 ways, because they're smarter than her, to not pay the tax, because they'll pay brilliant lawyers and accountants to do it. And if they can't, they'll move out or move their money out. It's on a much bigger scale what's happening in New York and California, where flight is unbelievable. And people just running away. I mean, after a while, when they're paying more than 50% of what they earn to the government, they feel that the government's the senior partner. You're the junior partner. You're working for the government. You're working for all the people that they're bringing in who are illegal, all the people who are doing the raping and the murdering, all the people who aren't working. You're paying for some of the communist unions, like the teachers union, that's doing a great job of reducing reading scores, math scores, the position of America in the world as an educated society. This is what happens when you practice socialism/communism. And nothing today deals with the headline of today, which is Joe's disastrous debt. Nothing she said today deals with that. And raising taxes to do it will end up reducing your economy. It'll just sink. Rich people are rich for a reason. They're very smart. And there's always a way to avoid taxes. Move. Get the hell out of the United States. What the hell I mean, a lot of them will say, what am I standing here for? Become a communist country. If I'm a Republican and I say what I think, they'll try to destroy me, bankrupt me, take my business. They'll do to me what they did to Giuliani and Trump and Mark Meadows. And I agree with those guys. So where am I headed? So the economic disaster will continue, and it'll just get worse. Meanwhile, Trump goes to Savannah, Georgia, and Mint Hill, North Carolina, and outlines a program that is a future-oriented program. It isn't exactly what he did before, because what he has to do now is different. For example, people say, well, he added to the deficit. Well, nothing like Biden did. But first of all, the pandemic, of course, required it. But second, he was dealing with a very healthy economy, and with the prospect that he was going to continue to grow it. So now, the way he will approach it is very different. He's aware of the fact that there have to be major cuts. He can do away with the Department of Education. Maybe we'll get our children back. They'll stop being property of the state. I mean, you realize that's what they stand for. Her running mate, who I assume she must have checked out before she took the communist, has a state in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I don't think it's just in Minneapolis, come to think of it. I think it probably anywhere in Minnesota. If you're let's say a 16-year-old, and you've been groomed by people like that, that you're doubting your sexuality, you can go there and change it without the permission of your parents, because the bureaucrats or commissars in communist Minnesota know better what's good for you than your parents. So there you go. That's Terry McAuliffe of a few years ago, who lost the election, right? When he said, why are the parents interfering in education? I mean, the educators really know about education. They don't know anything about education. They just used to be the ones who educated their kids when we go back 150 to 170 years. There's a jackass right there. That's about as smart as selling the Lincoln bedroom, which he did for the guys who started us on this curve toward. Play the idiot.
This is from just before the.
This is how he lost the election.
Yeah.
And McAuliffe did a great job.
Books, Glenn, not to be knowledge about it, also take them off the shelves. And I'm not going to let parents come into schools and actually take books out and make their own decision.
You vetoed it.
So, and actually take books out and make their own decision. I'm not going to let parents come into schools.
Now, who the hell is he to tell parents what kind of books their kids should be exposed to? What is he, the commissar of education? Yes. Don't you understand everything that Harris said today, inarticulate though it was, and hidden though it was? Every single thing grows this corrupt government bigger and bigger and bigger. So guys like that can decide on the education of your children, not you. This is, as Obama said he would do, trained by communists, fundamentally changing America. Yeah, they're fundamentally changing it into the Soviet. Oh, here's the genius again.
Let it always be the source of our optimism, which is that spirit that is so uniquely American. And let that then inspire us by helping us to be inspired to solve the problems.
All right, now stop it. Stop it. She said inspire us 3 times. But we're going to inspire us in order to inspire us. Tell me she's not a moron. It doesn't work. The brain doesn't work. They don't go 1, 2, 3, 4 like a logical Greek logical equation. She's too stupid to know what she's talking about. So she just makes up words. We're going to inspire us. And we're going to do that in order to inspire us. Huh? So Trump, on the other hand, doesn't have that problem. Here's his economic program, which he laid out in probably the most substantive speech. Well, he's given a lot of them. I mean, he's like debating himself. He and Vance should have a debate. I mean, just like Vance could play the devil's advocate. So he wants to reduce the corporate tax even more to 15% of people who make things in America, because he wants to bring jobs back. Thank you. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, you're out of your mind if you don't vote for him. I mean, you got the quintessential job killer on the ticket, and you got the quintessential job creator based on the American system, not the foreign system invented by a German and sustained by the Russians and the Germans and the Chinese. We haven't done better than that until these communists started to take over. So you can see he's pretty happy about that 15% corporate rate, because when he was walking out, he stood there for a long time with the 15% right over his shoulder. He's also there's another one of Kamala's hidden secrets that nobody thinks about. They don't quite understand it. She is going to raise the rate on capital gains, which is terrible to start with. And you think it'll affect rich people? You got a 401k? Are you rich? It's going to go down because you're going to tax it more. But second, she's going to attack unrealized gains, which I don't think is constitutional, by the way. I don't know how you can tax something you haven't realized, but let's say she's going to start it, and she's going to do it for very wealthy people, 100 million or some crazy thing like that. Now, here's what's going to happen that will have a dramatic impact on you and your 401k. Those people are going to get the hell out of the market and go in the private market. They do that very simply, right? Maybe they take a little loss, maybe they take a little profit. They put it all in the private market. Doesn't apply to their money. The stock market will go, pshoo. Your 401k, which is probably completely invested in what you think you have. Let's say you think you have 500,000 to retire on. It'll be 200,000 by the time she's finished, because your 500,000 is based on probably the price of so-called AAA stocks, right? Well, it'll all go down because the market will shrink. People will move from the public market to the private market, and the wealthiest people will, which means there'll be big hits. So when you think you're taxing the rich sustain the economy that supports the middle class and particularly the poor. and they are very adept at protecting their own money. So you give them incentives to get the hell out of the public market, they will. Now, nobody explains this to you because we have a group of sycophants. We have a group of Marxist educated reporters and journalists and people like David Muir who suck up. And they don't even want to bother to think. Thinking is like, but I want you to think about the fact that if somebody is going to tax you on a stock that went up, but you haven't sold it yet, you haven't gotten any money, and they're going to tax you on the gain, you got to go find money somewhere else to pay that tax. Now, if you're very rich, you say, well, who cares? Well, if you're very rich because you watch money. Very simple way to get out of it is get the hell out of the public market. Then they're not going to be scrutinizing it, not watching it. It's not illegal. Or put the money overseas. That happened. Remember when that happened? Democrats are terrific at sending money out of America. As I said, people are rich for a reason. Even you look at Gates and all of these phony liberals who think taxes should be higher. Why don't they just contribute it? Why don't they just say, okay, tax should be 70%, I'll pay 70%. They don't do it because they really don't want to. And when it goes to 70%, they'll find ways not to pay it. It's like these are called limousine liberals. It's like the people in Martha's Vineyard that were a sanctuary city until they sent a couple of people who had brown skin there. And then they went nuts and threw them out in a day, even though they have empty mansions. So the biggest controversial part of Trump's program is tariffs. And so people say, well, tariffs are like taxes, and they can end up meaning we're going to have to pay more when if we bought it from China or someplace else, we'd pay less. Well, there's more to this than just exactly how much you're going to pay. I mean, we have inflation now much higher than it was, 30% higher, even down lower than under Trump. At various times, it was 120% higher. And he knew how to use tariffs as a weapon. What's the weapon? To protect American jobs, to not let what happened in Pennsylvania and Michigan and Ohio and Indiana and Pennsylvania continue to go on. Our entire industry, steel industry, gone. Automotive industry, going, right? Coal, gone. Environment protected, like hell it is. All that coal that we were going to burn, a lot cleaner. Go to China and try to breathe. Go to India and try to smoke a cigar. The cigar remains over your head. They're burning all the coal that we would have burned, making the money on it, and they're doing it a lot less safe than we would. And we are no longer energy independent. He gave it to him. He gave Biden and Harris an energy independent country. We are not energy independent anymore. We're making a fortune on that right now. It would overcome a lot of the debt problem. Plus, he wouldn't have spent those last two tranches of trillions. So basically, he's got an incentive plan to woo business, to keep them here. I used to do that as mayor. I would do tax reductions for them. I'd give them tax breaks. What did I do? I used to get accused of corporate welfare. I said, well, wait a second. Welfare people don't work. These are for companies that provide jobs for people that work. And I need jobs here. I need jobs here for my economy. I need it for my society. So we don't go into a third and fourth generation of nobody in the family working. They didn't have the wisdom to understand that. So the New York Times did 27 editorials attacking me for corporate welfare because I made deals with companies to keep their jobs and set records for jobs in New York. Also ended up with the first sustained surplus in the history of the city, lowered taxes more than any mayor, and had the best economy that New York City had in generations, which was continued very effectively by Michael Bloomberg, who may be very left-wing on certain things, but on the economy, and he was a good mayor. And then de Blasio took over. and the insane economic theories took over. The defund the police stuff took over, and all the communist ideas, because he is truly a communist. And the corruption began again, which is the rule in New York. Bloomberg, myself, LaGuardia would be the exceptions to it. But LaGuardia and I were, the only two real Republican mayors in the 20th century. The rest of it was mostly corruption. You can look at New York City's history. You can look at the Democratic mayors. There'll be a few exceptions, but you can assume the city was corrupt. That's why it named a courthouse after the biggest crook in the history of America, the Boss Tweed Courthouse.
So do you think, well, does anything give you an inkling on whether Eric Adams is more of a Ed Koch or a Boss Tweed? I'm not sure if he was mayor, but
It wasn't.
but
Jimmy
the mayor
Walker,
at the time, Jimmy Walker.
Jimmy Walker got thrown out of office
Yeah.
by Franklin Roosevelt because he was a straight out and out thief, much more charming than Adams. But
So is this a Jimmy
watch
Walker
the movie
situation
Beau
or
Jest with Bob Hope playing him.
I will
But in
watch
any
it.
event, do I?
Can't say.
A couple of months ago, I would have said I have no sure feeling about it. I definitely have a sure feeling about it, but I'm not going to tell you. All I'm going to tell you is he's presumed innocent. He hasn't been charged with anything. There are lots of questions, and you have to explore the questions, warning people that nobody's been charged yet. The reality is, it looks like at least 3 or 4 programs are under investigation, which is very, very broad, and leads me to think that the federal government, which is my old office, the Southern District of New York, and they are the best at it. They invented doing it. I did with them. They're headed toward a RICO case. I would say that because they're hitting 3 or 4 different sources of revenue, of illegal revenue. First, they're taking a very, very close look at campaign finance fraud. Started with Turkey, and then they issued a subpoena that covered 5 other countries, including China, including, I think, Qatar. I don't remember who else. Maybe Kazakhstan. So that's the campaign finance part of it. That's part one. That's the way it's. That's the rape place when he complained about Biden and went to the White House.
Yeah.
And on the day that he was going to set up a meeting of the mayors who were going to complain to Biden that he was letting too many illegals in. Look at that guy. Somebody told me you can always tell the crooked politician by looking at their shoes. I don't know what kind of shoes he wears.
I love that. Let me guess. The fancier the shoe, the
crooked. Just thrown out as a question, Adams, what kind of shoes do you wear? Some wise old man told me, if you want to really focus on the crooked politician, look at their shoes or their custom-made suits.
That's what I was going to say. Just the suits give it away.
The guy was a cop,
Yeah, and then you're the mayor.
No,
make money after you're mayor.
I'm telling you, he was a cop.
Oh, before that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't in business.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever been in business. He was the borough president of a borough that has a very, very sordid history of corruption called Brooklyn. Born there, great place, but one crooked Democratic leader after another. Manhattan, maybe the worst. And they're the ones who pick the judges. So that's why our judiciary is so, well, certainly on politics, crooked.
Well, the school's chancellor resigned.
The school chancellor was like, that whole family, the Banks family, are his best friends. They've all been raided. Banks has been, the school's chancellor has been raided, which suggests another prong, which would be a problem in school contracting. You think the school thing, they run schools? Basically, they run administrators who administer administrators who administer administrators who administrate other administrators, and then you got some poor kid who's the teacher. And they evaluate her constantly, or him. He's supposed to turn around our schools. He never did. He was a disaster. Everything has gone down under this jackass. And now he's leaving, and his brother is also under investigation. And then another brother, Adams, tried to make him police commissioner, and they didn't do it because he had a whole history of possible corruption in the past as a policeman. Just like the police commissioner's brother did have a history of corruption and was thrown out of the police department and was going around collecting money from people. So the police commissioner and his brother were raided by the FBI. That'd be another. So you'd have police kickbacks to protect the clubs that he likes. Adams likes to go to at 3, 4 in the morning. Then you have campaign finance money from countries that are not allowed to contribute. Then you have maybe the biggest of all, criminal alien migrant fraud, which means the gigantic contracts that are given out to take care of these people who are taken care of much better than our homeless or veterans. You wonder why? Because you can build unaccountable amounts of money in it. And it is unaccountable because they've declared an emergency for these migrants. And therefore, you can do what you did during the pandemic, anything you want. Like, for example, I give you one example with the sitting governor Hochul. She, under the pandemic emergency, which they kept going way beyond the pandemic being over so they could screw around like this, she bought medicine for COVID, I think, or a test for COVID. She paid $600,000 for the number that she bought. California had bought the same one about 4 weeks earlier for $300,000. And then all of a sudden she got a $300,000 contribution from the company. You think she produced that contribution out of your taxpayer dollars? I don't know. Just use a little logic. Very rarely used. So the minute I saw that these migrant contracts were no bid, I said they're going to screw around with it. You look at a city that's been corrupt under Democrats more often than it's been honest. That's New York, that's Chicago, that's Philadelphia. You look at hundreds of millions in no bid contracts, and you say, you got a 4 out of 5 chance of making a corruption case if you investigate it.
Well,
why do you think they keep the emergency going so long? Because they have no accountability then. It's like the money Biden gives to Ukraine and refuses to put an accounting, put money in for an accounting of the money that went to the Ukraine. Even though, as far as I know, nobody's ever figured out what happened to about $5 billion in foreign aid that went to Ukraine back during Obama. The government of Ukraine was actually doing an investigation of it, and the State Department people told them, don't bother. They didn't want to find out because about $3 billion of it went through so-called non-government organizations, which in very large measure are laundering operations. They don't do shit. They just do left-wing crazy things like get people to chop their genitals off. And you think when you're given foreign aid, it goes directly to the country. They pick a left-wing Democratic NGO to run the money through. Soros has a lot of them.
It's never ending. So let's quickly hear
from it does end if you elect Trump, because he's aware of all this now. And this is why they want to kill him politically. And maybe.
Well, let's hear from Hakeem Jeffries. He was asked about Eric Adams today.
Mounting federal investigations into people in his orbit, questions about campaign fundraising, plus a litany of recent resignations from his administration. Are you confident in the mayor's ability to fulfill his duties leading the city at this time?
As far as I can tell, Eric Adams is working as hard as he can to be the best mayor possible and meet the needs of
we don't know.
The residents of New York City.
He's part of the whole thing.
Eric Adams to be successful as mayor
from the New York corrupt system.
Because he is the mayor at this moment in time, and the congressional delegation is going to continue to work as hard as we can to help Mayor Adams successfully lead the people of New York City and Governor Hochul
Successfully have enough money for kickbacks.
New York State.
But could this
Let's hear the rest of this.
Can in one of the toughest jobs in the world to keep the focus on meeting the needs of the residents of the people of New York City.
there are
I think I did it a little better than him, jackass.
Well, I hadn't ever played that all the way through, and that's worse than I thought. He doesn't even sound. I won't even say it.
You think he's ready to be speaker? No, he's ready to collect bribes at the local club, I think. That's what it sounds like. I mean, I don't want to say anything. He's not under investigation, but he sure doesn't make a good impression.
Not at all. How is that guy?
It sounds like he's part of the machine. He was part of the machine. So was Adams.
So he is.
Adams comes to us via the Brooklyn Democratic machine, which has a gloried history of corruption, only exceeded by Manhattan, which was Tammany Hall, which has the courthouse named after the biggest crook in New York history.
That guy will be. I can see why they have him they want him as the next speaker. He'll do exactly as he's told. And
Also, I noticed one little thing she said in the speech, and I've got to go back and listen to it more carefully. She said she's going to give tax credits for new jobs. And then she said union jobs. So she's going to fund the unions that are funding her. You should get tax credits for new jobs, whether they're union or not, if you're going to do tax credits for jobs. Only something like 12% of the people in America are represented by private unions.
The Steel City, by offering tax credits for expanding good union jobs in steel and iron and manufacturing communities like here in Mon Valley.
She's going to offer tax credits for good union jobs. What about good non-union jobs that pay more and you don't have to pay the crooked union to represent you? What about that? No credits for that? And tell me you're not a communist. If you would know what that is, after all, she did fail the bar exam. Do I emphasize that too much?
No. Well, she eventually, presumably, passed it.
She ended by giving the impression that she's some kind of an expeditious manager. If things go slowly, as they sometimes do in government, I'll move fast and I'll ask questions. Yeah, like she did with the border. She moved really fast with the border. Yeah, so fast that we got 20 million illegals here. Thanks, border czar. And now they want to say she wasn't the border czar. Well, okay, she was in charge of the border, or she was put in charge and didn't do shit, which is what her whole career is about. New York City is also under Adams, who is under serious investigation, a sanctuary city for which they should put him in jail. Here's the way a sanctuary city works. Same thing with the complete moron in Chicago who thinks that Nixon caused poverty. So sanctuary city used to be somewhat more benign because it involved humanitarian services that were allowed for the illegals because they weren't going to be deported and they're going to be here. So they needed a hospital, or they had to put their kid in school, or they want to report a crime. Okay. You can argue over that, yes or no. I thought that was fair. Koch invented it. I thought that was fair. And as I said, Koch, although a very complex guy, was in very, very many areas a good mayor. Actually, he endorsed Reagan. I just thought of that. Kind of like the Robert F. Kennedy of his day, or Tulsi Gabbard, they've been going left and communist for a long time. That's why I left with McGovern, because I thought they were getting too cozy with the Soviet Union. Well, in any event, New York City is a sanctuary city. Here's what it means. So they arrest all these people who were using little girls for prostitution that they brought in, who never were observed by anyone. Millions are brought in that way. And they don't bother to tell you that. They used to tell you that. In fact, Ivy League universities used to do studies of that. And the studies come out like this. For all that we know and have recorded, there's anywhere from 50 to 200% more that come in that we never get to see. I didn't say gotaways. Gotaways you see, but you don't know who they are. These are people you never get to see because it's a big border. And there are a lot of places to come in. And the cartels know it better than we do. And they make big money for the people that come in undetected, and the big fentanyl loads that come in, and the big number of children who come in. They're going to be used on Roosevelt Avenue, Sweetheart Street or something in order to do perverted acts, and Tron Diaragua or somebody else making a fortune on it. I mean, that place is filled with prostitutes now, and it isn't like the street prostitutes of a prior era that kind of ended with AIDS. These are a lot of young kids. This is what they're doing. This is how Kamala Harris upholds the rights of women. She lets 250,000 kids in here. We don't even know who they are or what's being done to them. Now we got some that come in with adults who are kidnapped and brought in, so the adult is treated better because he has a kid, and then when the kid gets to the United States, they give him over to whatever gang helped them get in. That's also done, but that's a much smaller number. The ones who come in undetected is a much bigger number, and it's a number we don't know, and it's something that has gone up dramatically under these two lawless criminals. So my point is, if you have a rule, they have a law in New York passed by Communist de Blasio, who got away with whatever he did because he was a suck up to Obama. Adams made the mistake of criticizing Biden. Now, whether Adams is crooked or he isn't, you never would have known about it if he had remained in the Biden boat, where there are a lot of crooked people who just keep their mouth shut about Biden, or they pretend that Kamala Harris actually has a brain. When a year ago, they would be free to tell you that she was the worst vice president in history, which the American people knew because they were honestly communicating with them. So sanctuary city means you don't have to turn in you can't turn in a person who's arrested, let's say, for rape, and they're an illegal. You can't turn them in. Why? And isn't that illegal? Isn't that a violation of federal law? Isn't that an obstruction of federal law? And for other purposes, they love to say that the federal government supersedes states and cities in matters of immigration, but not where it comes to your requirement to, as an official who takes an oath, even to the local official, to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the laws of the United States as well as the state. Aren't you obstructing those laws by letting dangerous criminals remain here who could be subject to deportation? Sure you are. The mayor of New York is doing it. The mayor of Chicago is doing it. I would recommend to Trump, you prosecute anybody who does it. And fast. He wants to pass a law ending it. Okay, that'd take a while. And who knows what turncoats you'd have in Congress. Go prosecute him. Not even an inventive theory. Jesus, they've invented crimes against innocent people. This would be a real crime. I think, number one, a mayor and a city council have no authority to tell people to not observe federal law. And second, they are not just saying, they're deliberately obstructing. And police, well, the police will tell you how outrageous it is. And what are they doing this for? Why are they bringing in all of these illegal people who have become a crime wave? Nicaragua is now established in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and poor little Aurora, Colorado, where they own buildings and use it as headquarters and transit points because they can hide better there. People in Mexico know about Aurora. They're ruining the city. Meanwhile, Governor Feliz Navidad keeps inviting them in and lies. And the mayor originally was a Republican, said it is true, they're taking over. Then he backed off when Feliz Navidad leaned on him. Now he's back. But, not all Republicans are heroes either. He's got a disaster going on in Aurora. And he's got a disaster going on because he didn't speak up for his city fast enough. So we should get somebody else to be mayor who's got a pair of you-know-what and can speak up and protect the people of his city. Otherwise, more and more people are going to get killed in Aurora, like they're getting banged around by cars in that place where allegedly they ate animals. Whether they ate animals or not, thank God some focus on Springfield. because in Springfield, you got a bunch of Haitians driving the cars that don't know how to drive cars. They're actually given a letter that allows them to do it. And Aurora, let's say, is not a sanctuary city. They didn't ask for this. Denver did. And it has more illegals per capita than any place. New York did, big time. Adams was out there yelling and screaming to come to New York. Now maybe there's a financial motive too. Big contracts. No scrutiny. Whoa. To a machine politician, that's like heaven. Oh, really hell for you and me. I want to say a word about the Pennsylvania race because it's really important. Dave McCormick is running in Pennsylvania. Dave McCormick earned a Bronze Star in Iraq. That counts for a lot. Let's start with that. He also held senior positions at the Treasury Department, National Security Council, and then he became the CEO of one of America's biggest hedge funds, and it was very successful. He's running against a completely useless senator named Casey, who used to be the only pro-life Democrat, but he changed because his surviving is more important, I guess, than his principles. And his basic campaign is not what he's done. Nothing. Hasn't done anything for Pennsylvania, which is in terrible shape. Also, Shapiro hasn't done a damn thing. In fact, he's presided over record levels of murder in Philadelphia and not done a damn thing about it. You've got a DA there that basically lets killers go free. Philadelphia's, I think, 2 years in a row, set a record for more murders than ever before in the history of Philadelphia under Golden Boy Shapiro, little shrimpy Shapiro. But, he's like, he can be the next president. Not if Kamala has anything to do with it. She intends to run for a second term. I know you think it's ridiculous, but it's ridiculous she's there. So basically, Casey is accusing him that of being a businessman and therefore not being qualified to be a senator. Really? He actually thinks we should shrink government, which is just the opposite of what you heard today from Harris, which is to grow government. Which you think is better? Which has been more successful to create wealth and to take people out of poverty? Our system. That's why people, if you need any support for that, take a look at all the people who want to come here and all the people that want to go to a socialist country. Oh yeah, they're just banging down the doors going to Venezuela. Oh wow, they can't control immigration. They can't control the number of people leaving, and then they stick the criminals in with them. Cuba, the same thing, right? That's exactly what Castro did. People were leaving like emptied his prisons, and they all follow that. Trump is right on the money with that. Right on the money. You'd see this trend in Nicaragua, and all around the country, committing murders and rapes, and then petty crimes too. They're taking cell phones in big numbers, but also banging people on the head, giving them concussions, stabbing them. You say to yourself, well, yeah, they must have come out of prison. Tren de Aragua is a prison gang. What else do you need? Crime is down like 60% in Caracas, Venezuela. And believe me, it's not because of crime reduction programs. It's because he sent them all here. There's a disproportionate number of Venezuelans here. And let's stop for a minute. Some really good ones who are really fleeing communism. But you can't tell the difference until it's too late. And they also do no vetting at the border. So there's no even attempt to separate the good from the bad. We used to do that, and it was imperfect. We let bad people through anyway. But at least there was a filter system, and a lot of people were sent back. It's changed dramatically. Trump sent back like 60, 70%. He sends back like 10%. And it has to be that the group of people coming in now are worse than the group of people that used to come in. I am very disappointed in Giorgia Meloni, who is the prime minister of Italy, and because of this schmoozing with dummy. What is that? Come on, Georgia, grow up.
To be fair to her, she might just be leaning over to hear him
Yeah, but
while looking ahead to pay attention to whatever.
she also saved him from going with the parachute people and going up in the parachute.
Or she set him up.
The press didn't work with the press. I mean, it worked eventually when he had to perform, and he can't. So they have an article in the Wall Street Journal about Georgia trying to baptism with something or other. How about not balancing it? You want to be Margaret Thatcher didn't balance it, Georgia. She didn't balance it at all. She just cut, and saved her country, and stopped it from becoming a communist country and socialist country. Elon Musk, I think, has a thing for her. Want you to read the beginning of this article in the Wall Street Journal by Lara Sullivan? Clad in a long black dress and red lipstick, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni hailed Elon Musk's precious genius. Oh, maybe she's got a thing for him too. While the tech mogul called her inside than she is on the outside. How does he know that? She's better. She's more beautiful on the inside. The mutual admiration between Italy's right-wing firebrand and the Trump-backing billionaire is nothing new. He presented her with a Global Citizen Award. But this looks like Elon Musk became the first gentleman of Italy. That'd be good. Actually, like Georgia, I would approve. I'd give my permission. Musk is just one of the close ties Meloni has forged to Trump and his supporters. I guess she's trying to make up for that picture. Good, okay. Did you see the president praying?
Yeah.
I think that was really good. We got to bring God back. We do. There's no way we're going to save this country. God's got to come back. We got to end the Marxist, communist 30, 40-year purge of God. God gives a whole structure to ethics and acting properly and respecting people, respecting life. I don't know about you, but I think that, and I would say this, whether I whether I believed in God or I was an agnostic, I'd never be an atheist, because atheists are just plain stupid, because you cannot prove that there is no God. You can't prove the negative, because you can't tell me how things began without me saying, well, what caused that? The Big Bang, what caused it? Just bang, bang. So Donald Trump gave, what was it, $100 to a grocery store owner in Pennsylvania, Jenny Cants. And he said, use it, whatever. And she says, we were hoping for an opportunity to meet him. And the fact that he handed $100 was a complete surprise and was a great experience. Bryant added that the candidate was very personable. Grocery prices have shot up more than 20%, and that's the low under the Biden administration. Inflation on groceries has definitely affected us, Jenny said Tuesday. And so Trump gave her $100 toward her purchase. She isn't going to spend it. She framed it. Isn't that nice? This is after he gave the little boy that beautiful package that I almost stole. Didn't I? Wow. Here's a picture of him giving her the money. Not a great picture.
Imagine Kamala Harris trying to do something like that. No way.
Well,
Imagine her going to a grocery store and
she probably
meeting-
require that you vote for her, and then they say, okay, that's bribery.
Well, they did a fake. I'll save it for tomorrow.
Well, she's complete fake.
They did a fake setup meeting with they claimed it was just off the street walking into a
was an
store,
actor, right?
but it was all set up. Yeah, it was like a volunteer actor. Yeah,
A volunteer actor. Well, the actors all support her. She's big with actors.
oh,
All the
wonder
Hollywood
why
types support.
they-
And they
that's a good idea.
lead a really, really admirable life. I guess D Combs, GD Combs is supposed to be the next Epstein.
P. Diddy Combs.
What the hell does that mean? P. Diddy Combs.
We
Is that
should
a
have
name?
that should alone.
What's his real name?
I believe Sean Combs.
P. Diddy Combs.
P. Diddy.
I don't even want to know what it means because who cares? And I've never heard anything he sings.
Well, you know what you call guys that are like potentially pedophiles, right? Oftentimes, a street term is diddler, a diddler. And when you think about it, this guy's nickname was P. Diddy for all these years.
Well, is there?
I'm starting to put that together. Diddler.
So this
Diddy.
thing involving him, this is someone says it's like an Epstein. So he's providing sex.
The idea is that he actually has it. Not only that, he's put a lot of people in compromising positions, situations, and
Like the mafia.
it has it on film, secret film, and like the mafia, Mayor.
Yeah, but look,
Some of it is
whatever happened to Epstein?
homosexual.
What happened to all the people that were with Epstein? That we, what I mean, nobody. It's like no. It turns out that Epstein was just faking.
Yeah, apparently nobody else was
Epstein
involved.
really wasn't a pedophile.
Apparently nobody
Clinton
else
went
was
on the
involved.
plane 27 times. They didn't see the little girls that were stuck in the bathroom and in the baggage compartment.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions.
They didn't see the 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds that were there for the pleasure of the other people. Bill kind of missed that. He's so nosy, I can't imagine he wouldn't. But we've never resolved what those 27 trips were all about. And did he actually take 27? He says no. They say yes. And the woman, Ghislaine Maxwell,
Helene?
she's sitting in prison keeping her mouth shut, huh?
Yeah.
She doesn't want to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to do an involuntary suicide.
And did she get like
Involuntary suicide? I mean, it could be like Donald Manis, who I talked about with Dr. Maria. You gotta watch her show.
Yeah.
Dr. Maria's show today.
Yeah.
I told the story of Donald Manis, who was maybe like one of these guys in the Adams administration. He was one of Trump's two biggest supporters. Concha's two biggest supporters. Well, Trump knew him. He came from Queens. He was a thoroughgoing crook. We caught him taking millions out of the Parking Violation Bureau on kickbacks. Same thing, contracts, no bid. Or they did bids, but they rigged them. And he and the other big supporter of Koch, Democrat, I tell you, Democrats in charge of the city. Whether they're personally honest or not, the city's corrupt. The city was nice and honest from me through Bloomberg. Goes to de Blasio, 800,000 missing with his wife. Now, they didn't investigate de Blasio because he didn't turn on him. He remained in the golden circle of protected Democrats. This guy made a big mistake, innocent or not. He criticized Biden big time, open borders. And the day that he got all the mayors together to spread it beyond just him, they raided his number one fundraiser. Took our house apart. He didn't make it into the White House. Remember, Ted? We were covering it. You picked it, and you said he's turning back to New York, and he was on the steps of the White House.
It was amazing.
He had a press conference there. I'm going to go in there.
Yeah.
What?
It was like a cartoon. It was like a cartoon strip, right? Where he's like, "Oh, I'm going to go in there and show them." You sure about that? One
man
was made.
They're tough. I don't think it's Biden. He's got a little committee there that would have been really, really good at running the Stasi. You know what the Stasi is? It was the East
secret
Berlin
police.
police,
Yeah.
the communist police in East Berlin. It was supposedly tougher than the Cape or the Savak, which was the Shah's ghouls.
Well, yeah. Well, they must have been that good. Right.
No,
No
they
more
couldn't
Shah.
keep. I think they turned on him.
Okay.
They turned on him. I think they turned him, but they certainly turned the people against him. Now bringing his son back. This would be the first time that I can think of, other than France, where a country that would get its freedom from the Ayatollah turns to a monarch that was killing them like crazy.
We'd rather you than, what does that say about the Ayatollah?
Keeping the Shah better of two evils, but it was an evil. If you go through the exercise of getting rid of the damn Ayatollah, how about we try something like a government of laws, a democracy of laws? That could be nice. I think the Iranian people too could sustain it. The Iranian people are extraordinarily well educated. It's not like the usual dictatorship where they're cut off from information, or through the efforts of our friends and some others, they get a big flow of information into Iran. Well, I'm actually pretty well known in Iran. I made a lot of speeches there.
Well,
that were piped in there, including just a couple weeks ago.
Well, yeah, your work is not done, Mayor, especially now that we hear Iran may be behind or playing a role in these assassinations.
Well, yeah, I said they're on the list of motive. Who has the biggest motive? So let's begin. Biggest motive would be the Democrats, right? They've done everything else to them. Are they capable of murder? The investigation will decide, but they should be looked at, right? The Biden regime people, Harris, all those people, are they behind it? Are they letting their FBI and Secret Service do the dirty work for them? Legitimate question.
Very fair.
Then you've got Ukraine, where the gravy train will get cut off. Then you've got Iran, where the gravy train will get cut off. We're the biggest financier of Iran. When he was in office, they were starving. It's going to end the day he gets in office. They know that. They're working really hard to elect Harris. They kill China? They've killed more of their own people than any country on earth. They'd stop short of killing. They tried to kill me twice. Nobody cares, but they tried to kill me twice in the same year. Once in Albania and once in Paris. In Paris, they're going to kill me and about 30, 40 former Newt Gingrich and Judge Mukasey and one of the former prime ministers of England. When I say that, they've been prosecuted and convicted of it. I'm not making this up. If they were going to kill me, why wouldn't they try to kill him? And why wouldn't they use like this guy? And he, in his own book, he tells Iran basically to do the job themselves because he can't do it. That's at least a start. On the other hand, he spent a lot of time in Ukraine, and nobody's asked him who supplied the money. Zelensky comes here and interferes in our election, big time, by attacking the vice presidential candidate, calling him a name of the Republican Party. What the hell is he doing that for? He's here to try to get our help of a united America, and he's attacking the guy who's supported by half the American people. And we're supposed to look kindly on that? And we're supposed to forget the fact that he runs a country made up of crooked oligarchs, one of whom made his entire career, and that he's hiding it? A lot of people don't know that. They treat him like he's some kind of a saint. He isn't. He was created by one of the biggest and crookedest guys in Ukrainian history, the money launderer, who they actually had to throw out because the World Bank wouldn't deal with them any longer because his bank confused him so much. Knows all the secrets. He knows all the foreign bank accounts, all the And he made Zelensky, he hired him, he put him in a crazy show, gave him millions. And then as soon as he became president, he took him out of exile. No questions about that. He comes here, he's going to meet with, he should meet with Biden. Biden corrupted his country, and he didn't do anything about that either. He knows everything about Biden. Everything. He knows more about Biden than I do. That's hard because I know a lot about Biden. But he can simply say to Biden, have all the pictures. I got the rest. So Iran, Ukraine, China, but that isn't their modus operandi. Russia does more assassinations. China wants to infiltrate you and wear you down.
And they operate in terms of like hundreds of years.
Yeah,
so,
but
Trump's just
on the other hand, there are an awful lot of military age, military type people from China in the United States. Could be in the hundreds of thousands or more. The group that first of all, he invited them in under the CBP-1 program. He lets them come in. And then he shortened the questions to only 4 about a year and a half ago because it was taking too long for the Chinese to get in illegally. He has to do something for them. So we have unknown numbers of Chinese operatives in this country, including possibly the Democratic candidate for vice president, who sure looks like one. So let's see. Have we gotten the list? All the list that's right up to the top. Iran, Ukraine, China, Russia. I would say it's the top 3 of those there.
And whoever's making the Ukraine war, right? That may not be Ukraine directly, right?
Got it. And the people who are associated with them. They used to call them in the old days of communism the fellow travelers. The fellow travelers. They're not quite officially that, but they're very, very.
Did you use that term in the mafia?
No, for communists.
Okay. A lot of them in New York too.
It looks like I missed some. It feels like I missed somebody on this list here.
What list?
On this list of possible.
Oh, well, we talked about internal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Domestic, inside the U.S.
Yeah.
The deep state. You already mentioned them. You mentioned Iran.
The communists in general.
Yeah. You mentioned Iran. You mentioned Ukraine.
Well, we'll do a better list for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because I want you guys to get some rest and get ready for this hurricane. Want to take one last look at it as we ask you
we got
to
the new
pray
now
for the people of Ukraine, who I love and are badly treated by their own crooks, and to pray for us, people of the United States, and God bless America. Want to put that on?
Extra camera.
Good.
Not yet.
One thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. But
bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,